Peace and love, everyone. I wanted to do a quick video on how to burn sage because I've just realized that there's quite a few people who are interested in burning sage who don't quite know how to do it. So I just wanted to give a really quick tutorial. This is not a tutorial to explain any rituals or any specific reasons why one would want to burn sage. It's just something to show you how to actually burn sage. So what I have here that I want to show you is some loose leaf sage, which is basically sage that is the loose leaf, like this. So you can get it like this, or you can get the individual leaves. A lot of times it comes like this in a cluster, and people break the leaves off. I generally don't break the leaves off. I leave it in a cluster, but either like this as just individual leaves or like this, they're both called loose leaf sage. And then there is the smudge stick, which I've already burned some of this today, as you can see. But a smudge stick is basically like loose leaf sage that is together in a bundle in a stick tied together. It comes usually in like 4-inch, 6-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch, and the inches explain the length of it. So of course, the longer that it is, the longer you can use it. It'll burn longer, it'll last longer. So this, I believe, started off as a 4-inch. So I didn't burn too much of it, but as you can see, I've already started burning it today. And since I have both of these to show you, I'm going to show you different dishes that I use to burn them in and different techniques that I use. So in terms of the actual dish that I use to burn my sage, this is a shell, and this is usually what I use to burn my smudge sticks. I don't know exactly what kind of shell this is, but it's a pretty thick, heavy shell. It's heat safe, so it works really well for hot sage because sage does get really hot when you burn it. Like I said, I don't know what kind of shell this is, but usually when people burn sage, they burn it in a abalone shell. And an abalone shell is that iridescent looking shell. It's a really pretty shell, and I've actually never burned sage in it, but most people that I know who burn sage in a shell use that. So if you see any of those shells, you can get that if you want to burn your sage. Other options that you can use are clay, soapstone. You can use glass. You basically just want to use anything that's heat safe. Make sure you keep in mind that a dish can be heat safe, meaning that the dish itself won't break or melt when the heat is on it, but the heat can still come through it. So whenever you burn sage or really any type of incense, you want to make sure that you check the dish first to see if the heat comes through. And if the heat does come through, then you always want to be careful where you sit the dish. Because like I said, even if the dish doesn't get damaged by the heat may still come through and damage whatever surface you sit the dish on. So that's a really, really important note. Another note is that there's some substances like glass that may be heat safe, but when you put something as hot as sage in it, the dish itself won't break and it won't melt, but because the sage is so hot, it may leave like dark brown or black marks in the dish. So you want to keep that in mind too, so that you're not using a dish that you may want to use again for something else, because the sage may leave the marks in the dish. The other thing that I have here is for incense. A lot of people have seen this before, but it's dirty because I use it all the time, but this is something that you burn incense in, and it is metal. It is metal. Some of these are copper. A lot of times they come copper, but this is basically just something that you burn incense in. And the way that this works is, let me set it up here. It hangs, so you can use this to kind of like hang, and the smoke from the incense just kind of wafts through the air. So I also use this for when I burn sage, and this is how I burn it real quick. So we'll start with the loose leaf sage, and I'll start with the cluster. So here's the cluster, and what I'll do is I'll take a match, and I light the match, and then I light the sage. Okay, and you let it burn for like a quick second. You make sure the part that you want to burn is lit. You blow it out and you wave the smoke, and you do whatever you do for your ritual or whatever it is that you're doing. And then I sit it in my shell. And usually once I light it, I sit it in the shell. And then if I need to go around smudging any areas, I do it while it's sitting in the shell so that none of the ashes fall on the floor and burn a rug or burn my hardwoods. You know, I want to keep it safe, so I leave it here in the shell. So that's the first way that I burn it. Let me put that out real quick. And then I'll show you the other way that I burn it. And that is with this container here. So with this container, I use something else which is familiar to a lot of people, charcoal. So here's the charcoal. So what you want to do with the charcoal is you want to light the charcoal. So this is pre-treated charcoal, so you just light it, and you want to hold the actual flame on the charcoal and spin it around. And as you can see, I'm holding the charcoal with some tweezers, metal tweezers, so that I don't burn my fingers. And you basically just get your charcoal nice and hot, and you'll start seeing little sparks on the charcoal. That means it's getting hot. And you just make sure it gets nice and hot, and then you stop. And then you take the charcoal, and I'm gonna sit it right in there. So I sit my charcoal in. So I'm not going to tilt it too much because I don't want the charcoal to fall out, but that's the charcoal sitting in there. And what happens is the charcoal, and I'm going to sit it down because this is going to get hot. So you don't want to hold it down here too long because the charcoal is going to make this whole container hot. So I have a heat safe dish down here on my table that you can't see, but I'm going to go ahead and sit this incense holder down on that dish, and I'm going to let the charcoal sit for a minute. While the charcoal sits, it's going to start to turn from black to like an ashen gray a little bit, and then there'll be parts on it that's red, and that lets you know that the charcoal is hot. So you just want the charcoal to sit, get hot. Once it's hot, then you can do the next step, which is, let me see if I can show you without burning my fingers. Because like I said, this dish, this incense holder that has the charcoal in it, it gets hot. So I'm not going to hold it up to the camera too much, but I'm holding it here with the tweezers, as you can see. And inside of it is the charcoal. So then I have some loose leaf sage. And what you do is you put the loose leaf sage on top of the charcoal. So as you can see, I'm putting sage on top of the charcoal, and you can see the smoke is coming up because the charcoal is hot. And when you put the leaves on top of the charcoal, they start to burn. So that is another way to burn the loose leaf sage. And as you can see, it's gonna burn. And the charcoal stays hot, so you can continue to add more sage. If you have some frankincense resin or myrrh resin, you can add that on top as well. If you have any other dry herbs, you can put that on top as well, and it will burn, and it will give you the smoke that you need for your ritual or whatever practice that you have going on. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take it off because I don't want too much smoke to come up. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take that off so that I can move on and show you the next way that I burn my sage. And so the next way is with a smudge stick. So with a smudge stick, what you wanna do is just light it. I usually use a match. I don't necessarily like using lighters, so I'll use a match. And with the match, sometimes I'll light a match and then light a tea light candle and hold my smudge stick over the candle as opposed to holding a lit match to the smudge stick. But today, I'm just gonna light the match And then I will light my smudge stick. Okay. And then you lightly blow it out. And then as you can see, it's burning. So you can see that there. And then I put it in my shell. And do it just the same way that I do with the loose leaf when I put it in the shell. I'll leave it in the shell and I'll walk around and I'll smudge whatever area I need to smudge. Now, those are the ways that I burn my sage. Those are the safest ways, really, to burn the sage. I also want to show you, if I can, one more thing. Let's see. I have to be careful because I'm moving the dish that has the charcoal in it. And like I said, that dish is really, really hot. So I have this right here. You can see it. It's a long dish. And this is heat safe. So this is what I'm sitting everything on while I'm working so that nothing burns my wooden table. Now, I do hope that this information was helpful, and you know, I do want everyone to really get into smudging and burning sage, but I want you to do it safely, and I want you to know the different ways to do it. Now, real quick, I didn't show you the charcoal that I used is Swift Light charcoal. And the Swift Light charcoal is like a pre-treated charcoal. And I'm sorry, my daughter is here and I don't want her to burn herself. But it's a pre-treated charcoal, so this is what I used. And you can use this to burn any type of incense, any type of resin or dry herb incense. So this is what I used. And then I'm going to show you my incense holder one more time just so that you can see it. So this is what it looks like. And like I said, a lot of them are also copper or brass. They're also brass. And then here's the lid to it. So what it actually looks like, and I'll see if I can show you what it looks like with the lid. So I'm going to put some sage on it. And then I'm going to put the lid on it. And then I'm going to lift it up so that you can see what it looks like when it's burning, if I can. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so when it's burning, you hold it by this string here, and then you just lift it up. And then you can see the smoke coming out of the holes in it, and you kind of can just walk around and swing it and smudge your whole area. But like I said, this gets really hot, so you definitely want to make sure that it's hanging, suspended in the air, or that it's sitting on a heat-safe dish. So again, I do hope that this information is helpful and that it assists you all in your journey of smudging and into the world of sage and cleansing and purifying your environment. Thank you and happy saging.